Alright, today we're going to make gluten-free stuffing, which is stuffing with gluten-free bread. Anybody who's ever made stuffing should be able to make gluten-free stuffing. Alright, I'm going to use Costco's bread because it's cheap. If you don't have access to Costco bread, you can actually make your own cornbread using masa instead of flour in the recipe, and then you can make cornbread stuffing. It's going to be heavy and wet and dense if you use cornbread, but it's still really good. So if you have leftover cornbread, go ahead. If not, I'm going to use this. All right. Basically, it's wet bread with vegetables. So we're going to start with some butter in a pan, and I'm going to saute up some vegetables. Put as much butter as your heart can take. Probably about a half of a, I've got a block, but it's probably about a half a cube that's in there right now to melt. And then to this, I'm going to add onions and celery and the yellow carrot because I have it. And then after I taste it, I'm going to determine whether I want to put cabbage in it. Once in a great while, I put cabbage in, which is sweet. Most people don't use that, but we'll see how this goes. Okay, I've got an onion and a half in there right now. It's a white onion. Use whatever you want. I like white. I've got 6 celery ribs. I worked in a deli run by Koreans, and they tried to show me how to cut celery properly, and I never could learn. They cut it on the bias and they chop it really fast. I'm not a good chopper. Just for color, maybe a little sweetness. Okay, I'm going to add cabbage after all. You don't have to do this, by the way. One time, many years ago, I went to make meatloaf and I didn't have any celery. So I put cabbage in it, and it was delicious. And I realized that it's kind of interchangeable. And like I say, this will, if you saute it enough, will sweeten up. And nice to have a little natural sweetness in it. It's not the same as sugar when you get a vegetable sweet. So it's going to be a heavy vegetable stuffing. This is going to take a little bit of time to saute down. So I'm just going to let this sit for a while. Okay. All right, the vegetables have cooked down to being translucent. Now I've got the equivalent of 10 slices because that's going to count as a double. I actually open up the package and let them dry out a little bit. I've never done that before, but you know, day-old bread and stuff is better, and I'm just going to cube this up. Perfect if you're going to make something like little fancy sandwiches and you want to trim the crust off of it, save that crust in your freezer. Crust pretty much makes the best stuffing. So I'm just going to cut it up in small cubes. Alright, this is what we got so far. We've got to figure out if our bread to vegetable ratio is right. I'm not quite sure yet. We'll see. You got to spice it. It's sage. Got to put sage in it. You can put in, you know, they have spice blends and stuff. And this is clumpy, I see. That's probably not good, but I'll stick it in there. I'm going to add a little bit of little Italian seasoning also. You got to put liquid. All right. So I got this Tuscan chicken. We just tasted it. It's really overpowering. So I'm only going to use a little bit of this because there's so much rosemary in it. Rosemary tastes really good with beef, however, so I'm going to freeze the rest of this, and I'll be using it in a beef stew later. So a little sprinkle of this because I opened it. And then your basic dollar store chicken broth. Right now it's going to be on simmer, and it has no salt in it at all, so I'm going to test it in a second and see what I have to do to adjust the seasoning. For salt, I'm going to put the bouillon, chicken bouillon on here. A little more broth. We're probably at equivalent to half of a container box. All right, if you're a vegetarian, get a nice little container of vegetable stock for your liquid, and just use the Lowry seasoning instead of the chicken seasoning. Okay, there's our finished product. I'm just going to put I don't bake it. I'm going to put a lid on it, let it sit. Right before it's time to serve, I'm going to pop it in the microwave for about 5 minutes. It's going to heat it up, and it's going to do the final absorption. This bread is kind of wet right now, but after you microwave it, it's going to suck it into the bread, and then you're going to get a drier product, and very flavorful. There you go.